We still show the snow and cold for our background this month, but it finally looks like we've turned the corner in the southeast and spring is here to stay. I kept the snow up to make sure that was the case, because if I'd taken it down and shown something spring, it likely would have snowed during this time. So we will be talking about the heat and the summer before you know it. But today we are going to address the past winter and look ahead to what spring and summer have in store for us in the March edition of the Water Resources Outlook. Jeff will get us started off.
Okay, thanks, Todd. We see the last 30 days of precipitation here and lots of yellows on the map, indicating most areas have seen between 2 to 4 inches of rainfall over the last 30 days. The green areas are showing areas that have seen less than 2 inches, with red areas more than 5 inches. So overall, we see parts of northern Alabama and North Georgia where these areas had seen most of the rain. How does this compare to normal for this time of year? Here we see the departures from normal for the last 30 days, and really we have been near to slightly below normal across much of the region for most of March. March is generally a wet month for the region, and for most locations we are running about 2 to 3 inches below normal. So after a wet fall and a wet start to the year, we finally are getting a break here. So where are we relative to the beginning of the year? And here it is. Here are the departures for normal since January 1st, and we see really two distinct areas: the well above normal area across northern Mississippi, northern Alabama, and North Georgia into the southern Appalachians, and also the dry area along the Gulf Coast across southern Georgia and North Florida, and even into the Carolinas coastal plain, where we are running several inches below normal for the year now. Most of the Florida Peninsula running close to normal for the year.
I thought I would show a few graphics for selected cities around the southeast describing rainfall over the last year. The top graphic in each slide, and then look at them over the past most recent 90-day period. The bottom graphic. This might help us describe the current conditions and the potential for drought developing in some areas. Let's start in North Carolina, where the green shading shows above normal precipitation. In Charlotte, the April through September shows near normal, and then much above normal since then. And the 90-day indicates a very similar pattern. We see a similar pattern in the Raleigh-Durham area. The difference is that this area indicates rain very close to normal over the last 90 days. Our second set of graphics shows a couple of Georgia stations. Atlanta over the last year has been above normal. It has been consistently above normal, and then by the end of the period, it shows about 21 inches above normal based on this graphic. The 90-day graphic shows a similar story with the above normal rainfall over most of the period. But before I talk about the Savannah plot, I will mention that as Jeff has shown, once you get south and east of Atlanta, there is a distinct transition to below normal rainfall as you move towards the coast. The Savannah yearly graphic shows near normal, with the 90-day showing below normal over the period. This pattern is more representative of the central and southern portions of the state. A similar pattern as we look farther west into Alabama. Birmingham rainfall has been above normal for the whole year, with the last 90 days remaining wet. And this pattern of above normal rainfall continues as you move north and west. As you move a little further south and east, the Mobile graphic provides a better overall view, indicating some below normal precipitation in these parts of the state. However, for the most part, we see very close to normal precipitation for the area, with hints of dryness. One last comment about all these graphics. Many of the rivers that begin in the mountains, or at least near the mountains, and drain into the Gulf or Atlantic, remain above normal because of that accumulation of rain has to go somewhere. The more local, smaller basins, as you get close to the coast, are beginning to show signs of being lower than normal and hinting at drought.
Okay, so typically this is a very active part of the year as far as river flooding, as we are in week 13 of the year, but the dry weather has finally calmed stream flows down a bit and flooding as well after what was record-breaking stream flows for the fall and into the winter season. As you can see, we also typically see flood chances fall off as we head into mid to late April. as rainfall becomes less and evapotranspiration picks up. Here in Georgia, we are seeing many of the leaves begin to come out in some of the forested areas. So overall, stream flows are near normal for most gauges. As you see lots of green dots on the map here, North Georgia and the upstate of the Carolinas are still above normal with recent rainfall and remaining wet conditions from the cool season, as well as reservoirs. They're still dropping some of their pools and releasing water. Breaking it down by states, we see where we are in where we see the blue colors there, meaning above normal or much above normal during the December and January period for all 5 states in the region. We are now in green or closing in on green, meaning the normal range for stream flows. And we see this overall in the region. The trend is more toward normal stream flows, and the overall typical trend as we head into the warmer months is that we see stream flows continue to fall, as you see here. So as we go from floods this past winter to talking about drought, not so much the story yet for the region, but we are seeing the abnormally dry conditions spread across the coastal plain of Georgia and South Carolina, with even some pockets of D1 drought now showing up in Georgia, a change from the last month, which is shown on the smaller map to the left there. Where will we be heading as far as the spring in the short term and long term? Well, Chris will talk next, with Todd coming up shortly.
We're beginning the period with high pressure across most of the area. This will persist into the early weekend, at which point we'll start to see a cold front nearing the southeast. The front will move into the southeast by Sunday, bringing rain with it. Models start to differ at this point, with varying depictions of where the front stalls out and becomes stationary. The models all show a low early next week, however, and the continued possibility for rain. The 7-day rainfall forecast shows the precipitation associated with the cold front and the low later in the period. The long-range outlook calls for above normal rainfall amounts along the coast and through the Florida Peninsula.
And now our long-term forecast. Temperatures for the month of April look to be forecast for above normal as we finish leafing out and greening up the southeast. Competition for water will start in earnest this month and continue to increase through the spring and summer as the vegetation pulls more out of the soils and humans pull more from the rivers, reservoirs, and ground in that time. The rainfall potential remains above normal for the month as we remain in an El Nino, which still affects our forecast into spring. While the above normal doesn't show the confidence it did earlier in the year, the lean towards above normal is still there. This is true for the seasonal forecast from April through June, as the El Nino begins to weaken and the effects from El Nino typically become less prominent as we approach the summer. It does look like the potential for above normal spring rainfall is there. As Jeff showed in the climatology, some areas are better set up to handle this rain. And as we get into the summer months, the above normal precipitation shifts out of the southeast RFC area, and we are left with equal chances of above, near normal, and below normal precipitation. It will make an interesting summer as we begin to talk about hurricane season in our May Water Resources Outlook. And so the bottom line in the short term looks like the next couple of weeks we could be a little less active and see below normal rainfall in the first couple of weeks of this period. And we're really kind of approaching the end of our flood season, our traditional flood season. As a reminder, we can get floods during any time of the year, and this year has been a great example of that, where we've seen flooding in very different times of the year and all through the year. So we always have to be very careful of that. But our traditional flood season, it looks like we're slowly coming to an end as we green up and the leaves on the trees and the competition for the water increases as we go into spring. As for the long term, we still have the chance for above normal rainfall with the end of the El Nino kind of coming upon us and still some of those influences into April and maybe early May being there. We still have the chance for some flooding and still some above normal rainfall, but things are looking better than they did last month as we were coming into our potentially our most rainy time of year and the potential for flood. And so We will try and do our water resources outlook a little closer to the middle of the month next month. We're looking at April 18th. If you have any questions in the coming weeks, please contact us, and hopefully we can get you some answers. Take care, and we'll talk to you next month.